All right, good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Bill Williams, and we are live with the Influencers Podcast coming to you from no other than Stone Mountain, Georgia today. Hey, I'm down south of where I usually live. We're on semi vacation with my grandchild's 8th birthday, and this is her present to come to Stone Mountain and spend the weekend on the famous Granite Rock outside of Atlanta, Georgia. So we're glad to be here. And I want to introduce to you an associate of mine, Robert E. Woods III, who is in business acquisition business. We're going to talk about business and fun things today on the Influencers Podcast. So let me bring him on right now. Hello, Robert. Good to see you.
Hey, Dr. Bill, how are you doing today? Good to see you too.
Good, good. We're having a great day early up in the morning here in Atlanta, Stone Mountain, actually. And we're looking forward to hearing from you today. Tell us about where you
That's
were,
awesome.
what happened to get you started in this business, and what inspired you to do what you're doing today.
Yeah, when it comes to my journey, I think I've always looked at what programs are available for me to succeed. I think especially when I transitioned out of the military, I knew that there are a lot of programs that can support us. And so essentially, when it comes to business, housing, and a lot of things. So, um, I know we'll cut this part out, but essentially, I was looking up the SBA loans, and there was an SBA veteran loan at one point. Long story short, I stumbled upon someone's videos named Dan Pena, and this guy I believe he's about 75 or maybe 85. He lives in a castle, and he basically teaches people business acquisitions from his castle. He has different cohorts of this super hard hitting course. And long story short, I learned that SBA loans were the key to acquiring, or could be the key to acquiring a business at and so essentially anybody can acquire a business, and typically the bank wants at least 5% down. And so I think when I heard 5% as a down payment, I think that's when my ears perked up, especially when you think about the potential valuations of different companies and how you can build wealth through business acquisitions and also business creation. So yeah, I mean, I think that's really what got me fired up. This older guy that has Rolls Royces and talks about having a rich life, he essentially he put me on to wanting to get into business acquisitions.
Well, they talk about man should have his own castle and be in charge of it. This guy literally did that, didn't he?
Exactly. I highly recommend taking a look at his content. It is riveting.
Excellent. Well, that's a new mentor that we'll have to look into. Somebody who has castles has got my eye. Hey, tell us about the biggest failure story. What did you learn, and how did you recover from it to get into the SBA loan business?
I think I learned that one of my greatest failures is essentially over time just not having a great sense of accountability growing up as a kid. Like, oh, maybe it was the teacher's fault. They put those hard questions on that test, or this other team, they had a really big player. He was 7 feet tall. They cheated, things like that. And so I think after a while, I just started to take a look at myself and my situation, and I realized that I was literally the problem in my circumstances. And so I think you mentioned the 3 success secrets. And essentially, I learned that accountability is a key to success, or even just moving forward at all. And I think also having an ability to connect with people and have relationships with people that can be honest with you, I think that's also key. And also, I think before money, I think relationships are probably the key to any form of success, whether it be in maybe a marriage. A lot of times there's in-laws and things like that. You have counselors and people that support you, and also in business you have coaches, or even other referral partners or people that you can support and they can support you. So I think, yeah, that's kind of what I learned in my journey. It's been a decent road.
I kind of agree with you. That first point you brought up,
Hmm.
it was really your mindset that kept
Right.
you from succeeding because you always felt like it wasn't a fair fight.
Right.
7 foot tall guys were always intimidating to me too. I
Right.
shared the locker in high school with a guy who was 7 foot 1,
Whoa.
and he was quite above me, but we were friends. And he went on to play college ball in Vanderbilt, and
Whoa.
I don't know if he ever went pro, but definitely it was kind of fun being around somebody of that stature.
That is funny. That's awesome.
Yeah. Now tell us, you see a lot of people make it and a lot of people don't. Have you assimilated some basic understanding of why people fail?
I think it's typically whatever they deem as success, they're just essentially not hitting the targets. And I think when it comes to success, I'll just say in my life as well, or things that I see, essentially I'll see these characteristics in someone else. I'm like, oh, I remember that. That was a fun stage, but you got to get out of that. And so essentially, blaming others about anything. I think even if it rains today, it's not it's not the rain's fault that you potentially had an accident. You should have left earlier or things like that. You always have there's always some form of accountability. um, and second, I think it could be a person's environment and the reason. I mean, a person's environment and the people that they associate with. Unfortunately, when you look at stories like John Morant, for instance, I think that was just a public situation, but that was kind of a product of his environment. If he had someone on his side that um, didn't do or send these pictures or things like that, he might have a couple more 100 million coming his way. But and then the third thing I would say is execution. I think when people execute, that's the number one way that you can accomplish a goal. I know that you didn't become a doctor by being afraid of teeth or even like looking at a person's mouth and saying, dang, okay, I need to do that root canal today. It is 5 o'clock but I have to do this. And so I think those three things um, are typically the reason why people fail, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Dennis looks at a root canal differently than patients look at a root canal. It's like if it's 5 o'clock somewhere, that means somebody needs a root canal.
Right.
Yeah, those
Money
things
to be
don't come
made.
by choice; they come by aggravation. Tell me
Exactly.
about your motivation. What makes you get up in the morning and stick to the knitting?
I would say so there are a few things. I think the most important thing is, of course, is my family and trying to make them proud. I have a little boy, he's 8, and it's such a beautiful stage that he's in. And I can tell that he's pretty much mirroring and absorbing almost everything that I'm doing and saying. And I love it because that forces me to be better. And I've had this saying since I was in high school, that which was, in order to be a president, you have to act presidential. And so what I meant by that back then, it was like, oh, I have to be the class president or whatever. But I think that if you have high standards, you're going to continue to emulate um, the type of characteristics of a person that has high standards. And I think if he's learning a little bit of high standards from me, then I think that he would. I think he's going to be an incredibly successful little kid. So yeah, my son. But most important, I mean, not most importantly, but also, um, I have this obsession with wealth creation and self actualization. And essentially, every day I'm working toward that, and I can feel myself inching toward it every single day. And that's what excites me and motivates me each day.
Yeah, I think that's an admirable trait to pass on to your your children is the desire to succeed and have that picture right in front of them all the time. So good dad, smart dad, rich dad soon, not a poor dad.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Tell me, why should somebody align with you, buy into what you're doing?
Honestly, I think if you want to be wealthy, then you'll follow me. I think wealthy people, in my opinion, typically like a good story, especially when that story arc starts a little low at first. And I think, well, anybody kind of enjoys a good story, but I think when a wealthy person um, or anybody connects with me, I think there's not only this wealth of information. I think there's a wealth of um I think there's a wealth of abundance that comes with conversations with me because I think in abundance. So I have one of my friends who she's a business owner and she is an incredible one. And long story short, she likes to bring me into meetings because whenever she has a price recommendation or anything like that, she'll say, "Okay, Robert, I think I'm going in at this price. What do you think?" And no matter what, I typically recommend a price that's 3 or 4 times as much as what she thought initially. And so I think people just kind of like um, the energy of a person that's constantly moving forward because that lets them know they're in good company.
I put a post up just the other day that said you become like the five people you hang around most.
Right.
So, you surround yourself with positive thinkers, aggressive people who see the future as bright and optimistic. You'll become just
Hmm.
like them.
Absolutely.
Who's your ideal client, Robert?
So right now, my ideal client in terms of business acquisitions, I think that's a tough. Essentially, I'm just looking to buy businesses. So a client of mine would be someone that's looking to sell one. I think that's how we could support each other and figuring out how we could essentially negotiate a deal that makes sense for everyone. Um, I
So
think
you
that's my
basically
ideal
have a
client.
formula that you want to go by, and you're looking for bargains. You're looking for things you can enhance to turn a profit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And my goal is really to have a vertically integrated healthcare technology centric real estate development firm. And so like we're a little far away from that, but at the end of the day though, I think the ideal client will essentially be my ideal partner because at some point we'll probably cross paths again if we have a good relationship. So yeah.
How do you go about finding these people that you want to purchase their businesses?
Lately, I've been using websites like Biz Buy Sell to meet people that are selling their businesses. I think typically there's a lot of pros to it, but I think typically a downside to it is the fact that there's typically a broker in the middle of that conversation, so it kind of forces the prices to go up a little bit more, and also there's a little less room for negotiation. But in addition to that, though, I will cold call you. So I might just cold call medical facilities in that area, um, and hopefully try to talk to you.
Is that pretty much what the man in the castle taught? Is to find the medical guys who want to sell out and retire, or be self, or move away from self management to group management?
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it. Um, they primarily focus on building a team so that you can grow a business that is 100 million is pretty much like the norm in that group. And so you can do that within 10 to 15 years. And that's kind of if you use the prescriptive method. But what he mentions is if you if you call 20 people, if you call 20 people, you'll be a millionaire. If you call 1,000 people, you'll be a billionaire for sure. And I kid you not, when I think the business that I'm focused on acquiring right now, it's a 62 bed assisted living facility in Mississippi, and essentially is being sold at a good price. It's a $3 million property, but I found that seller on a cold call, and he was the 16th seller. I mean, the 16th call. So it's just interesting, when you listen to people and put actions into into the methods. I think you can get some pretty good results.
Good deal. Tell me about
Yeah.
your well-defined products and services that you offer in bringing these things together.
Yeah, so essentially, I offer a four-step system for helping you acquire a business. But also, I have a system for helping you sell your business as well. So, any conversations, I'm open to those. I think my specialty is the SBA loans because that's what I've been focused on. So it'll be SBA loans in addition to we'll typically talk about SBA loans as well as seller finance options for selling your business or acquiring a business. But yeah, those are my well-defined offers at this point.
Well, that's some pretty good information, some good sharing, and I appreciate the detail. Just talk
Absolutely.
about crushing your competition. You know, a lot of people out there trying to buy up good properties and good uh, opportunity. You know, what are you doing to crush your competition?
In my opinion, so I am just starting out, admittedly. And so in my opinion, what I'm doing is pushing forward by like not taking no for an answer right now. And in addition to that, I think being able to just have good service and good customer service is probably, especially in a client focused environment, which most environments are, um, having good customer service and treating people like you want to be treated is the number one thing. And I think if we can scale that, I feel like we'll have a pretty good business. And that's always been one of my focal points in working. I mean, I was a janitor. I mowed lawns. I was a bagger. I sold shoes at Cole Haan. Did if I've done a lot of jobs, and I think the main reason I've been successful in those roles is because I've had a natural disposition towards serving people well. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of how I think you should crush your competition.
Hey, I agree with all that. You know, you learn from the bottom and then you appreciate the top.
Exactly.
I was driving a truck. I was working building houses. I was as a
Mm.
laborer, not the contractor. I worked in a chicken hatchery. I worked in a box factory. I worked in a lot of places as I was growing up. I worked in the mail room at Colonial Pipeline. I worked at
Mm.
a truck stop fueling diesels. This was all before I became a dentist. So yeah, you start at the bottom, you work up, and you do appreciate your success as you move up the chain.
Right. And just as you were saying that, I was getting excited, like, dang, what job is next? Like, and then you became a doctor. Whoa. Like that is incredible. And I'm sure you're incredibly proud of that story too. But it's really inspiring to hear that. Thanks for sharing that too.
Yeah, I set my goals at 16 and never looked back.
Mm.
And I'm finally, got there and I'm on my next career already. I've retired from dentistry. I'm
Right.
doing IT business around the world, and
Hmm.
influencer podcast is basically my hobby, a fun time to connect with great people with new ideas that fuel the fire. And I learn from them, you guys, and I share it with my audience all around the world. We have 200 countries that listen in. Thousands of people watch every podcast. So
Hmm.
we're definitely looking forward to digging out the best information and sharing it with the world. Here's a question that might be interesting for our audience, do you have any online platforms that you rely on?
I think the main one for me right now is Biz Buy Sell. It's a way to get deal flow and also meet different brokers and sellers in various markets. Not just medical or assisted living, but all different types of business owners. Um, and another one that I've been using, I think for the past maybe 5 years off and on, has been Airtable. And I've recently employed it a lot more in my life, and I think the recent updates have been extremely helpful to help you knock out your to-do lists and also manage different projects because I do have a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, I those are the two. I don't necessarily have a third one unless it's Gmail.
Okay, I understand. Well, I'm going to hopefully introduce you and all the others listening today to some really good IT products that might plus your business beyond your imagination. At the end of a show, I usually will bring up a couple of them just to share what's new with us. So, yeah, hang on for some fun stuff there. So, how do you
Nice.
convert a client to a brand ambassador, somebody who talks about how your help gave them success and they become your brand ambassador?
I think it would come down to doing what you say you're going to do and managing expectations. I think sometimes people jump into an agreement and without discussing the parameters or the scope, and then there's typically some sort of misalignment because of expectations are mismanaged. So I would just say having a great degree of integrity in what you do, and essentially letting people know that you're a solid person.
I believe that's good. Now, if you're talking about today, what are you grateful for today?
Honestly, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to speak with you today. I'm grateful for the fact that I'm actually turning 35 in 7 days. So there's a lot to be grateful for. A lot of people in my life that, love me. So there's just a lot. So I'm just grateful.
Sounds good to me. I can take a lot from that concept of being 35. I know where I was at 35, and I started over again at 48. So just to
Mm.
think about, you've got a whole 2/3 of your life still to go. How do you start
Right.
every day?
I start every day with a 30 to 40-minute workout in my home, calisthenics, and then a nice long shower after that, and 2 to 4 hours of creative or deep work. Um, yeah, that's how I start the day.
And your goal, to become the millionaire in the castle. How do you achieve that goal? What's your plan?
Uh, so, so the goal is to essentially get to 100 million before 10 years, before the 10-year mark. And the long story short of it is to really focus on credit and collateral as I move forward. So, for example, the business that I'm acquiring right now, I'm paying 5% down, actually 2.5% down. I guess we can talk about that at a later time, but I'm paying a down payment and I'm getting this $3 million asset. And all I have to do, which will be hard, is increase the value of the asset. But before all that happens, I'll also be able to utilize the credit that this business brings. And so, long story short, for every $50,000, you can buy. That's basically a $1 million business. So with $200,000 in credit, you could potentially liquidate that or use a line of credit to buy a $4 million business. And so, long story short, my goal is to continue to leverage credit to acquire more businesses, and the goal is to buy probably 3 to 5 businesses a year. And within the next few years, my goal is to have a closing every month.
I can understand the goal. I've been through some of that kind of experience where people are doing roll ups. And
Right? Didn't you
key,
sell? Did you sell yours? You
I
sold.
did. I
How was
did.
that process?
It was smooth. It was slick. I went with a big one, a big company that does it a lot, and they might do 10 a month.
Mm.
They do a lot, and they're the biggest in the whole world in that industry.
And they're a law firm,
A dental firm.
a dental firm. Oh wow! So I'm sorry. So you
Oh,
partnered with them?
dental offices owned by dentists.
Gotcha.
And
Eh,
it's one of those situations where the EBITDA goes up the more you increase your total holdings. So that's kind of the reason they do it. A
mhm.
lot more return on investment.
Right. Right.
So if you have a significant other in the picture, you have to get there okay to go forward, or are you kind of a solo entrepreneur?
um. My wife is definitely in support of pretty much anything I do. So whatever I do, she is the kind of person that wants to hear the high level details and just she's like, just go do it. I don't want to hear that much about just execute. And so that's what I really
All
appreciate about her
right.
too.
If you got a good wife on your side, you're definitely in great shape. I have had a good one for 47 years.
Mhm.
Always stand by me with whatever I do, even if I don't do the right thing every time. She's always there, and we get
Mm,
it going. We get it right. Tell me
beautiful.
about your advice you'd give to yourself 16 years ago.
I would say focus on yourself, focus on your health. Don't drink too much and focus on your cash flow generating skills that can help you get to your next goal.
Solid, very solid. Don't drink too much. Some people get in trouble with that, don't they?
Definitely.
Who's your living mentor? You talked about the one guy in the castle. Is he still the main guy?
You know what? Honestly, I have a few, and they do tend to oscillate. But I would say one of my main ones is Don Peebles. He's a real estate developer, and he was a millionaire before the age at the age of 27 through real estate in DC, by the way, and just an incredible leader and continues to do great things and has an amazing family. The second person is Reginald Lewis, who is a real estate. Well, he also owned real estate, but he was an M&A lawyer, a juggernaut, and that book really just changed my life and helped me realize that my goal is not just a pipe dream. Um, and the third person, there's so many, but the third person I would say Ermias Ashkadam. He's an artist that also goes by the name of Nipsey Hussle. Um, One of the most prolific minds that I think our culture has seen, and his music definitely continues to uplift me. So yeah, those are the three for me.
Hey, you want to hear some trivia? Nipsey Hussle took his moniker from Nipsey Russell, I'm sure, who was a comedian. But you know where Nipsey Russell got started?
LA.
The Varsity in Atlanta, Georgia.
Wow,
He was a
that
car
is
hop. I believe he was a car hop who was successful in meeting people and having fun, and he parlayed that into a career as a comedian. Nipsey Russell.
wow. I did not know that. That's good.
Hope I got it right. Somebody could correct me if I missed out on a detail. Tell me, Robert, what do you want to be remembered for when it's all said and done?
I want to be remembered for number one, for my kindness and my ability to make people feel comfortable. And the second would be for being an incredible family man and a father, in no particular order, actually. And then I would also say I want them to know that this dude was a boss.
There you go.
Similar to like Floyd Mayweather kind of person. That's the goal.
Sugar Ray Robinson, sweet punching guy. How about that guy?
That's cool too.
That's my generation. How can we
Yes.
support you? What is the place we reach you?
So if you'd like to reach me, you can contact me at robert@woodsventures.com. That's robert@woodsventures.com. But also contact me on LinkedIn at Robert E. Woods the third on LinkedIn. And to support me, I do have a couple of books. One is called Intrinsic Value. The other one is called Veteran Transition Playbook. And so essentially both of those books are incredibly tactical and philosophical. I basically put all of my thought processes and everything I know into these two books. So if you rock with me at all, go ahead and get those books. I
Well, thank you
appreciate
for
it.
sharing that. And I want to thank you for our audience listening in for your service to America as a
Thank you.
serviceman is never forgotten.
Thanks for saying that. I appreciate that.
How can we hear about your experience on the show today? What do you think?
My experience was great. This was a great flowing conversation. I appreciated that the questions were on the screen, so I didn't have to keep going to my different things. So that was great. Great experience. I really appreciate this entire system you set up, and I appreciate it, Doctor Bill.
Good deal. Well, I'm going to give you the final word, and then I'll come back and talk a bit more, but talk to our audience about.
Oh, I think it. You said talk to our audience about. I did not get that last part. Sorry.
I'll put your question back up there so it's even easier. How about that? The
Okay.
final word is you can say anything you want about your acquisition business, and it's your personal time with the audience.
Gotcha. Um, yeah, so I would say no matter what, continue to focus on your number one goal because that is typically the goal that's going to make you legendary. Mine for me right now is business acquisitions. For you, it could be anything. But I think if we connect at all, I'd love for you to know that I'm looking forward to meeting you. Um, and as far as business acquisitions is concerned, if you know anyone that's looking to sell their business, um, feel free to reach out to me. And also, if you know anyone that's looking to acquire a business, um, I would definitely recommend my book, Intrinsic Value. Opportunities come to those who know their worth and options because there are so many different examples of real people that are doing more than likely doing exactly what you want to do. And there's real data in that book too. So I just really appreciate you for listening and taking a moment to um, connect today. And thank you.
Well, there you have it. Robert E. Woods III coming to us from his heart. Speaking of being a great dad, teaching his kids how to become great adults. We are so proud that we can bring on people like Robert to the Influencers podcast to guide us, to give us insights. And the acquisition game is a big one. Transition of the practice, medical practice, another business to the next generation is an essential part of our economic capitalistic process. And so we need people who are doing what Robert's doing. You don't want to be stuck with an asset when you don't want your asset. You want to move it along to somebody else. So thank you for sharing how it's done. SBA is always useful, and there's a formula. And anybody who's in the business of creating wealth will look at real estate and the acquisition of businesses as where to go. Let me bring on a couple of points here for you guys that I want to share. And one of them is my digital business card up in the corner. You see that QR code? You can reach me here. You can look at what I'm doing around the world in IT business, as well as the acquisition point for getting on the Influencers podcast. If you have a unique story, if you have something that you want to promote that the world wants to see, then I'll interview you on the Influencers podcast. Just come in and apply for a time with us. Now, I've got something that I want to share with everyone. This is not just for business owners, but it really does pertain to people with a website. If you have a business that needs tracking success, then we have the best analytics program available. It's called OTracker, and you can get it at this URL right here, otrim.co/track'em. This is for everybody with a website, the most up-to-date, simplest, but most detailed analytics tracker for any website, any business. And this one will actually track everything that happens when people come on your website and look around, including heat maps and segmented who's on it, where they're from, what city, etc. So we are happy to connect with everyone. If you want to reach me, you can go to that QR code, or you can go to drbillwilliams.tv. You can also reach me at otrim/drbillw. Two separate URLs here. They're not the same. They're not connected. So let me know if you want to connect, and we'll be glad to do that. So happy week for everybody on the Influencers Podcast. And don't forget, capture the freedom code by going up here to this QR code right here. And we'll be glad to enjoy time with you every day as we move along. This is Dr. Bill Williams saying goodbye. And Robert, I want to thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Bill. This was awesome.
You bet. And I look forward to seeing all you guys on the Influencers Podcast. We'll have another one coming up soon. Take care and have a fantastic Friday from Stone Mountain, Georgia today. It's Dr. Bill Williams signing off.